OffBeat Sports Podcast presented by Celsius.
It's been a tale of two seasons for the Boston Celtics.
I probably aged about 10 years just from that series.
I'd probably compare myself to just a younger, smarter, more handsome, stronger Michael Jordan.
Let's go Celtics. Go Patriots.
These are guys who, when you give them a bowl of Cheerios in the morning, they finish every last drop of milk.
Absolute clown over here.
I'm ready when you are, baby.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the OffBeat Sports Podcast presented by. Today we're joined by Gordie Lockbaum, former player for Holy Cross football. Gordie finished 5th and 3rd in the Heisman Trophy voting in 1986 and 87, respectively, while playing many roles for the Crusaders, including running back, wide receiver, cornerback, safety, and he returned punts and kicks and led the team to an undefeated season in 1987. So thanks for joining us today, Gordie. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I mean, that's a hell of a resume right there, right? But let's start with where your career started. So many people know you from Holy Cross, but many don't know that you attended Glassboro High School in New Jersey and played multiple sports, including football, baseball, and wrestling. So how do you feel participating in those other sports help prepare you to play football at the highest level?
I'm a huge proponent of multi-sports. I'm not a specialist from a sport perspective, and I would like to see more kids play multi-sports and represent their high schools. And I believe that if you're a good athlete, that the colleges will find you. You're going to do fine. You don't have to specialize at a young age, and I think that's the way to go. And fortunately, I grew up in a town that had a great athletic mantra, and we fought, neighborhood against neighborhood. We were fortunate enough to have great athletes at our high school. It was a small high school, but we excelled at every sport. And I was very fortunate to grow up in that town of Glassboro because I played baseball, I wrestled, and I played football. And I love wrestling, and that was one of my favorite sports, and I ended up coaching it for many, many years.
Yeah, you can't beat that, right?
And I feel like especially playing sports like baseball and wrestling, as you said, with specialization, there's different skills you'll learn in each of them that you wouldn't normally get in football, right? Because I know in baseball, it's really important is, really working on hand-eye coordination, which in football, is mostly for the skill position players. But there's a lot of different skills you can take from both of those, as you would know, right?
Yes, I agree. Baseball, if you're playing the outfield, you turn your hips, you give ground to catch a ball, and wrestling, just hand fighting and having leverage and just mental toughness. So each sport brings something to the table, and I believe it's important from that respect. That's a personal thing. But I also believe that it's important to represent your high school because not every athlete's going to be the best. Not every athlete's going to be the one or two guy. You need those guys that are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9s that are going to round out your team and make you guys special at the high school level. So I would just encourage people to play sport because every team I played on that was good always had those fringe guys that took our team over the top.
So for those that haven't seen it, there's an ESPN 30 for 30 that, kind of jumps into your career titled, it's called The Throwback. And the documentary did mention that you were recruited by FBS schools like Penn State, Syracuse, Rutgers, and Navy, to name a few. Those are some big time programs competing for the FBS national championship every year. So why did you end up selecting a small school in the FCS like Holy Cross over one of those bigger nationally recognized schools?
Yeah, you're 18 years old, 17, 18 years old, trying to make a decision on what school you're going to go to. It's a very difficult decision. For me, I had a 350-mile circle that I put around Glassboro, New Jersey, because I wanted to be close to home. I wanted to be near my parents and my family. And it was a situation where when I went to Syracuse, I went to Navy, I went to Rutgers, I went to William and Mary, I went to a lot of these schools and Penn State. And at the end of the day, when I went to Holy Cross, I just felt really comfortable there. And, Mark Duffner was my recruiting coach at the time. He had South Jersey. He just really connected with my family and with myself. And when it came time to make a decision, after I got off the plane, I remember that was one of the only places I went to by myself. My parents went to most of my recruiting trips with me, but I went to Holy Cross by myself, and I just really connected with the people up there, not just the football players and the athletes, but I saw the friends that they had, and that second level of friendship meant a lot to me. And it proved out when I ended up going there because, many of my friends that were there were athletes, but also they were non-athletes as well, and just really special people.
So did you enjoy attending a small school like Holy Cross? Like, was that your goal going into school, or were you open to the bigger schools? Like, was that a turnoff for you?
That's a really good question, because I think that sometimes we can pigeonhole ourselves and think, all right, I'm a big school type of person, university setting, that'll be appropriate for me, or a small school. Coming from a small high school where there were 500 kids in the whole high school, Holy Cross still felt kind of big. I had friends that went to schools that had 2,000 or 2,500 kids, and by the junior year they were really tired of it. So that's a really good question, and I didn't run out of gas in terms of feeling like it was too small. Maybe because I was so busy with football, maybe because I was so busy with classes and all the stuff I had going on. But I hear what you're saying. Some people feel like that level of, that many kids, you're going to kind of run out of gas and you want something a little bigger. But I did not. I was fine.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, you played for Coach Mark Duffner at Holy Cross. So do you want to elaborate a little more on how Coach Duffner impacted your life on and off the field during your recruitment process and during your time at college and after?
Yeah, he, well, that's a long road with us, because he recruited me out of high school. He made a huge impact on my parents, my grandma who lived with us at the time, my brothers and sisters. He came down to South Jersey and he grabbed myself, Byron Dixon, Lee Hull, and Tommy Estep, who all were 3-year starters for Holy Cross. And he used to get off the plane and he'd come down South Jersey and just do a little loop and see us all. And he got us all to come, and we all ended up being impactful players. But the thing that he was just so genuine, and someone who pushed you really hard to be the best you could be. I think he was a real judge of character. I think he was a real good judge of talent. I think he was somebody that he pushed you really hard, but in a way that made you want to do better and to please him, to please your teammates, and to just get better as a player and as a person. Some coaches can grind you out. I'll put it on the other side. And he never ground you out. He just built you up and made you feel like you could always be better. And that's what I always felt I could be with him as a coach.
So when you started your college football career, you began your career playing cornerback your freshman year, and then you shifted to safety your sophomore year. But your junior year is when you started playing both sides of the ball, which you started at running back your junior year. So how smooth did you find the transition to offense? Playing defense to start your career, and how did you manage to take twice as many snaps as a regular football player each week? Because you're on the field regardless of who has the ball.
Yeah. I was a wrestler. I was an athlete. I grew up in a neighborhood that we just played sports all the time. I felt like I could always run forever and just play forever. I always wanted to be on the field. I played both ways from the time I was a little kid and all through high school for sure. But when the transition happened after Coach Carter died and Mark Duffner took over, we were in a situation where things were going to change. And he embraced the change. He did not push away our history of what Coach Carter built at the school in terms of taking us to another level. But he just said, all right, we're going to do it a little bit different. And when he brought in Tom Rossley, who wanted to do a run and shoot type of offense, we didn't have all the players that were in place to really make that happen. And I fortunately got the opportunity to run on offense for a little while. And it would have been like going from cornerback to safety and then over to the offense. But they said, you know what, rather than just take you off the defense, why don't we just let you play defense and play offense? So the transition was hard in the sense that there was a lot to do, but it was good for me because I knew what defensive people thought about. I knew how they set up their coverage. I knew what the adjustments were when they were scheming and trying to, disguise coverage, that I could just make it happen. So when I went out on my routes or, tried to catch the ball or run the ball, I always knew what the defense was thinking and trying to do. So
you would say, or would you say that because you knew what the defense was going to do, I'm being doubled on this play, let me make a cut inside to get open, or just little things like that?
Yeah, exactly. And there were times where, keep in mind, like we were doing when we were doing run and shoot, we were doing a lot of the slot type stuff that we were 20 years ahead of what they were doing in the NFL. When I went to the NFL, we weren't even doing that kind of stuff. So I was running in the slot. I was doing like the Edelman and the Welker type stuff where I'm working on linebackers. Linebackers really weren't capable of covering a slot receiver at that time. So even if they doubled me, they were doubling me with linebackers, not with defensive backs. So I could just go pick on somebody and just work on one linebacker. And, if they're trying to, up and down, or trying to, clamp me or whatever, I could figure it out. I could either run through them or I could just work on one guy and still catch the ball.
So as you know, a ton of planning, film sessions, and preparation goes into each college football game. There's a lot that you have to prepare for week to week with different opponents. And that goes regardless of who you're playing, right? Because if you take an opponent too lightly, that could be the difference between winning or losing the game. So how difficult did you find balancing many different positions on the field? As you said, you were all over the place on both sides of the ball, and prepare for many different aspects of the game each week.
Well, fortunately, that coaching staff between Mark Duffner and Kevin Coyle and Tom Rossley and, it just goes on and on. That coaching staff, they all ended up in the NFL. They were in their 30s at the time. They were innovative. They prepared us beyond belief. But at the time also, we didn't have the same restrictions in terms of hours that we could be watching film, meeting with coaches, practicing. Nowadays, I think they have limitations in terms of how many hours they can be on the field and in meetings. That wasn't the case back in the 80s, fortunately. So we could watch film after dinner. In my opinion, there's a lot of, I was a mental player as much as I was a physical player. So I always wanted to be ahead of the game in terms of being prepared, and the coaches could prepare you. And then it was up to us to just take it in and then execute once the game started. And I always felt I was prepared. I never felt surprised by anything the opponent was doing. We always used to laugh that it was amazing how well prepared we felt with that coaching staff. They were amazing.
So you just mentioned many of those coaches ended up in the NFL. Specifically Mark Duffner. He's on the coaching staff for the Cincinnati Bengals, which I'm seeing right here, which they just made the Super Bowl last year. So did you get to talk to Mark about any of that? And if so, what was kind of that experience for him?
He's he's amazing because if I text him right now, he'll text me back. You know, he is so engaged and so committed to his players, and he considers, although he isn't been in the NFL all these years, he's been with Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Miami, Tampa Bay, all these teams. He still considers his time at Holy Cross very special, and we love that about him. He's still our guy, and he still considers us his guy. So we love that about him. And another guy, Mike Sherman as well, who was head coach for the Green Bay Packers. I forgot about even to mention him, but there's a fourth. I mean, there's a lot of guys that went through, but Coach Duff is the most special person that you would ever want to meet. I mean, he's amazing. And we're just so blessed to have him at that point in his life. And for somebody to come in who was, such a close friend of Coach Carter, somebody that was, a linebacker coach, defensive coordinator, and then have to take over that program at that time and try to figure out how to navigate through such a difficult period where, we're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids trying to deal with the fact that we just lost our head coach. And he took it head on. He just embraced us. He hugged us. He always hugged us, but he hugged us really big time through that time and took us on to the next level. And we went 10-1 and then 11-0.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to ask this just because we usually ask this to the current college athletes, but you know what? I think it's going to be an interesting answer, so I'll go with it. So the biggest thing in college athletics recently is the NIL stuff. I'm assuming you've heard of it, the name, image, and likeness stuff. So what are your thoughts on this? And would you have liked to have had that when you were playing at the collegiate level?
Yeah, it's like 30 years too late. 40 years too late. I could have made some money, but I get it. I always believed that we should have been paid something on top of, because coming back from a away game at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, getting off a bus and getting handed $5 for meal money was not real cool, but that's what the game was, and that's what it was. I think they should have given us a little bit more, but it is what it is. But it's not a thing. But the one thing that's really hard, like what we dealt with in my time at Holy Cross, I will tell you, is there was always this chance that there could be some animosity about someone getting more notoriety versus someone else. So I got a lot of notoriety, and I get that. And that's got to be really hard on teammates who make it happen for you. So for example, the lineman and the quarterback who throws the ball and everybody else who's not getting accolades and getting to the Heisman, there's a lot of pitfalls right there that could team up. But one of the things we were very fortunate with was the guys really understood, well, if they're here watching Gordie, you know what, they're going to see me. So a lot of people got opportunities to go to the pros, had opportunities to go to the next level. And that might not have happened if Holy Cross was, not in the national limelight like they were, because they were chasing, my stuff, whatever.
And you mentioned the Heisman. So 1987, you finished third in the Heisman voting, and ahead of incredible players and future NFL Hall of Famers and Emmitt Smith and Thurman Thomas, and had the opportunity to attend that Heisman Award ceremony in New York City in both 1986 and 1987. So what was it like going to an event like that and seeing all of the pride and glory of that, something like that? And how did it feel knowing you finished ahead of some of the greatest players to ever play the game?
It was amazing, first of all, to go to the Downtown Athletic Club. Was amazing. Just to be in that building, and now it's in a more prominent place, but back in the day it was in a very historic building down in the Battery, down in South Manhattan there. We enjoyed it. We loved it. It was really exciting. I got to go with my coaches and friends and my parents, of course, and it was an amazing time. It was something that you would never even imagine could happen. So certainly the blessings were there to make that even happen. And then and to finish fifth and then third was, beyond belief. It was exciting.
Did you get to meet like Emmitt Smith and those guys, like, and like get to like actually interact with them? Like,
Yeah, I mean, people would be more interested in the fact that it was Brian Bosworth and Vinny Testaverde the junior year, but the senior year was more impactful for me because it was Don McPherson and Tim Brown, who were two amazing people and amazing men who had purpose, and were guys that you would really. They weren't out to make limelight. They were just out to be good football players and be good people. And so it was really a tale of two cities, so to speak, going from junior year to senior year.
So, like, as you mentioned, you were sitting in the same row as Brown and Testaverde. Like, what was that like, being able to see them 5 feet away from you and playing in a small school like Holy Cross, say, wow, I'm really on these guys' level. Like, I'm seen as an equal in terms of my ability. Like, what was that like?
It's pretty special, of course. I mean, it was, a time where, again, I didn't even own a suit. I got a sport jacket on that in slacks from Macy's or something. I don't even know what I had. I didn't even own a suit at the time. And these guys had tuxes on and stuff, but I didn't know. It was amazing. It was just beyond belief.
So after your fantastic college football career, you were selected by the Steelers in the 9th round of the '88 NFL draft. So how did it feel being drafted by a team like the Steelers, and after that whole process, like what was kind of your mindset going into the pros?
Well, the Steelers were not the Steelers of old at that time. They were just coming through, their Super Bowl era. So 1988, 89. A lot of the players were still there. It was an amazing time just to go in there and see, to have Mike Webster and these guys that were historically, it was almost like you're playing next to your father, a guy like him who had been there for all those years. And then just the whole team, Chuck Knoll, being there, and the coaching staff was amazing at the time, but they were kind of, the tires were worn. They were really struggling at the time. So I felt like it was a good opportunity to make the team, and I just couldn't get over the hump and make it. So I ended up getting cut, and having to drive the Pennsylvania Turnpike from Pittsburgh all the way back to South Jersey, which is a long ride with tears in your eyes.
So through your 4 years at Holy Cross, do you have a favorite game and memory that you have? And I know you played in a lot of them, but is there one that kind of sticks out to you that you'll always remember?
Yeah, got a bunch. I mean, there are a bunch of games in '86, that 10-1 year, which 10-1 sounds awesome, but we had a lot of nip and tuck games where we had to gut them out. But there's also something to be said about, in the '87 year where we're 11-0 and we were down 3-0 to Army, and we never trailed the rest of the season, So there's a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of, it was nice to excel and execute. It's not fun when you're, feet are on the fire and trying to find a way to get through it. But when you do, there's a lot of joy in that as well. So I would say the Army games, which were, especially junior year where, we were in a situation where we're 5-0. We go in there, Army beat Tennessee, who was ranked at the time, and we had to go in and gut it out. We beat them 17-14, and man, it was just a nerve-wracking game. And I was on the field a lot that day and had some decent stats, and that was one that you walked away with feeling like you accomplished something. And we accomplished a lot in different ways, but that was one game I would say that I was most happy about.
Yeah, and we just got a few small fun questions for you to wrap it up. So, of the many positions you played, which one was your personal favorite and why?
I love playing slot. I just love being a receiver. I like catching the ball. I love adjusting to routes. I mean, one of the things that I think that a lot of people don't realize is how many adjustments you make in the routes, and the fact that you're on the same page with your quarterback. People saying, why are you throwing there? Why are you throwing here? But, whether they're man or too deep or three or this or that, everything's an adjustment. And if we're on the same page and we're just reading one another, it's the most satisfying thing on the football field.
So who would you say is the greatest of all time in the NFL?
Wow. That's a hard one. Oh boy. You know what? There's a lot of people I love. I like Walter Payton. I just think I love him as a person. I love him as a hard running back and a guy that just didn't quit. He never stepped out of bounds. He fought hard, and he's a quality guy. I mean, I hope I don't hang up and then go, oh, I should have said so-and-so, but I think Walter Payton's a really good pick. I love him.
Hey, not a bad one. I mean, as
who do you like?
As Patriots fans, I mean, our answer is
obvious. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Tom Brady's kind of our guy. If we don't go with him, we'd probably get in trouble with our listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, we get a lot of backlash if we said anybody but 12.
What we had who was on the Devin Haskins was on the other day, in cornerback for Holy Cross right now, and he said Tony Romo, and I was like, all right.
That's valid. He's a Cowboys
man.
fan. So that's
I
valid.
will smack him next time I see him. There's a lot more better people than Tony Romo.
So the NFL this season is wide open. There's really no team that you can kind of look at and say, oh, that team is, no one's competing with them. There's a lot of different guys who could go for the Super Bowl this year. So who is your prediction for Super Bowl winner in February?
Oh boy. Well, you know that injuries can kind of creep in towards the end of the season, and that's really a big component of all this. But I'll go with my Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to make it happen this year.
Eagles, come on. Oh, boy. This is just – the Eagles, come on. That hurts as a Patriots fan, too.
That made you squirmy.
Not a Philadelphia guy at all, across the board. I'm a diehard Celtics fan, diehard Patriots fan. Between Eagles, Sixers, I'm just like, all right.
So you think the Patriots are going to win?
Oh no, not at all. Not by any means. I'm not delusional. I don't know. I think it's hard for the Chiefs to lose right now. I think they're just so good.
That's fair.
And I think if the Bills can kind of put it together, they should win it. But they're kind of
never do. They never do. I feel like the
Bills have been a little sketchy.
Hey, the Patriots are going to take them down tomorrow night or two nights. Thursday night, I think it's going to be an upset. I don't want to. We got the throwback uniforms coming. It's just perfect. It's the perfect time.
I feel like the Eagles can kind of be hard to judge this year too, because they obviously have a really good record, but they haven't played like the top tier team, so it's kind of hard to like where do we place them? You know,
we got a cupcake schedule. Fraudulent. They are fraudulent.
Dude, I'm from South Jersey, from outside of Philly, so all my boys are going to be watching this. They're not going to like you too much. They're not going to watch your podcast anymore.
Hey, I don't need to be liked. I don't need to be like that. I can be the Stephen A. Smith of the Offbeat Sports Podcast, or who is another one? Max Kellerman was hated. Colin Coward's hated. I'll be that guy. I don't mind. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Speak the truth. Speak
Bring
the
it on,
truth.
Philly. Bring it on.
So we've had current Holy Cross football players on the show recently, namely Peter Oliver, the starting running back, Jalen Coker, a receiver, and Devin Haskins, who's a corner and is on the special teams unit. Since you still follow the team, what are your thoughts on this year's Holy Cross team? And do you think they can win the national championship? And as well, do you see yourself and anyone that's currently on the team that kind of plays similar to you or has a similar mental approach to the game?
That's tough, but I will say that one of the things you look at as a past guy, and when you're on a good team, is you say who can play on your team. So who could have played with us 35 years ago? I mean, can't believe it's 35, but it is that long ago. And there are a bunch of guys, and Peter is super tough. Sluka is super tough and athletic, and he's really, moved up his game. They got some really good athletes. Coker's just like a guy that can just, he doesn't feel the pressure. He just makes things happen. So there are a lot of guys athletically that are really good and have some street smarts. And that's one of the things that I always wonder about, is whether or not guys these days and athletes these days have any street smarts and ability to be, like you're playing on the sandlot. And some don't. I'll be honest. Some are so robotic that I don't trust them to really make it happen when it counts. And this team and these guys, the last 3 or 4 years, they seem to pull it together when they need to. They've won a lot of tight games, which is really hard to do, because there's good athletes on the other side of the ball too, and they just always seem to can't come up on top. Now that can bite you in the butt too. You don't always put yourself in those situations. It'd be nice to just blow somebody out once in a while, but we'll see. I mean, they got UNH coming up in a couple of days. We'll see what happens there. But a little spooky because kids are very athletic these days. They jump higher, they run faster, they're tough. But we'll see.
Do you think the team has a chance at the national title in a few weeks, or?
I do, but you got to get through. You got to get through next week, and you got to take it 1 week at a time. If you start looking ahead too far, then I guarantee you're going to get swamped right out of the chute. So beat UNH first, then deal with the top seed. So then you got to punch them right in the face and make something happen. But you got to win the next game first.
For a Philadelphia guy, that's a real Bill Belichick mindset.
Yeah, well, it's true.
All right, I got one more for you that we usually ask the current collegiate people that I think is going to be interesting, because you had a whole different era of celebrities. But if you could have had one celebrity come and watch you play when you were playing, who would it be?
Celebrity come watch me play.
Yeah, these are the hard hitting questions right here.
Yeah.
This is what separates the boys from the men.
Yeah. Wow. Come watch me play.
Yeah, any
celebrity. Oh gosh.
Anyone.
I don't know. There's a lot of good ones. I mean, I'm still always gravitating back towards Philadelphia. I love Dr. J and Pete Rose and all those tough guys that came on through. But no, the only guy I ever wanted to make sure that they were there, and guy and girl, was my mom and dad. Not to get mushy, but they're always there and watching me and supporting me. And that was two people that I always loved having at my games most of all.
Hey, that's a good answer right there, right? My favorite answer that we got from that one was Antonio Brown.
That's awesome. Yeah. Who knows what that would have turned into, but
that would have been a whole mess.
Yeah.
So that's all we got for you. Thank you, Gordie, for taking the time to do this interview with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
So tell all your Philly fans to come at me. I don't mind. I'll take the heat. I don't mind. As long as they're watching.
Well, they are tough, you know.
Yeah.
They are tough.
Hey.
They might be a little greasy from their cheesesteak, but they'll come get you.
Hey, I'll take the heat. I'll take it. I don't mind. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. Appreciate it. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at @offbeat_sports and on TikTok at offbeat sports. And make sure on the lookout for the next episode. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Call them all Texas.